Hey there, everybody. It's David H. Lawrence, 17th, and joining me is my friend, Michael Kostroff. Let's see if we can bring him in. There he is.
I'm
Hello, Mr.
here.
Kostroff.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Yeah, you're in Chicago. What's going on in Chicago?
I'm doing a play by Tony Award-winning playwright Itamar Moses called The Whistleblower, which is quite funny, and we open tomorrow night, so it's exciting,
All
and
right.
it is
So,
a beautiful and non-rainy day in Chicago, which is
it's like icing on the cake,
uh,
isn't it?
it is quite that.
The
Yes.
question is it windy? Because I've heard it's a windy city.
The Windy City thing does not come from actual wind; it comes from windy politicians.
Are you
Shifty.
are you
Yeah,
serious?
yes, I don't know the whole story, but it's an expression meaning shifty.
I was today years old when I found out that's where Windy City came
Well,
from.
this is why we do these things, so I can
Wow.
educate
Okay.
people
Well,
about
you're in
Chicago.
Chicago. I'm in Los Angeles. Tell me, those of you watching, where are you?
Oh, we
Put
want
it
to
in the
know.
chat. Let me know where you're watching from. And most importantly, if you're here to learn more about auditions, you're in the right place.
Mm,
Because Michael Kostroff used to hate auditions. Now he is at peace with them. He learns about them all the time. He shares that with you. Let's see who's going on here. Uh, Dan is in Haha, which I believe is in Nebraska.
yeah,
I'm not sure. Let's see. Jack Friedman is. I will also be in a play in California, which is not Chicago, but he will also be in a play,
I love that.
which is awesome. All right,
It's a
cool.
good time for being on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And Christopher Buckner is here,
Hi,
and he's in
Chris.
New Hampshire. How
Yes.
is that possible? That's so rare for him to be in New Hampshire. So here's why we're here. First of all, Michael's awesome. He's giving of his time the day before his play opens to share with you answers to any questions you have. It's an AMA, and usually that means ask me anything. That's what
Or American Medical Association.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But the kids today, they call it the AMA, the Ask Me Anything. But today we're going to hijack that and we're going to make it Ask Michael Anything.
Nice.
Anything about auditions, the process, the preparation for it, the mindset around it, because he has this course that is amazing called Audition Psych 101. And Audition Psych 101, I share this on a regular basis with people who ask me about it, changed my life and gave me a real leg up
Mm,
in what was the very first network booking that I ever had.
I love that.
What I learned in in Audition Psych 101 prepared me to, from even before I got to the audition room on the lot at Universal, it prepared me for what I might expect, how to look at things, how to actually look at the script, find out things about the script. There's a little bit of acting coaching going on in there, not a lot, but
Little.
just enough to really set you on the right path in terms of being a detective about your sides. And then there was this massive amount of information. I could almost picture myself being in the room. And when I got in the room, so many things fell into place. It was just amazing. And I so appreciate that, Michael. I will always be indebted to you for that.
It's my
And
pleasure.
I'm sure my story is not unique. Have you heard other people say
Uh,
similar things?
there are a couple of things that keep me doing this. One of which is that it's very humbling to have received hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails, and I run into people. Here I am, Chicago, meeting people who have taken the class, and um, to be of service to fellow actors is really something. So it is very common for actors to tell me that it changed their careers, changed their experience auditioning. And the reason it's important to me personally is that I had a terrible, dreadful time auditioning, and there was no such class on the psychology, on the psychological part of it, which I think the longer I do this, the more I realize how much psychology is involved in what we do, and how we look at it, how we hold it in our minds affects the whole experience.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And I'm sure there were classes before you, but they were like, okay, you want to stand out. when you walk in the
Yeah.
room, you want to make a bold choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I took classes like that, and I
Not
thought,
at all. Yeah.
do I really want to do that? I think I'd rather serve the story. But when
Yeah.
I took your class, it's amazing how I'm like, yes, yes, that's what I want. That's what I want. That's how I want to feel. That's how I want them to feel. It was
Well,
just amazing.
I think what people appreciate about this particular course is that, it's I don't bullshit. I'm very honest. I'm a New Yorker. I give it to you straight, and I don't believe in promoting approaches which might make us feel good but are not based in truth and logic and reality. I'm a big logic addict. So I'm very honest in the course. I don't, sugarcoat things, and I present a different way of approaching it that makes it. I mean, I enjoy auditioning. Still can't believe I say that out loud, but I really enjoy it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Don is thanking us. We rock for doing this for aspiring folks. And I think it's interesting. It's not just aspiring folks. We love
no,
that you guys are all here. And if you have questions, let me just slide this in. Just put them in the comments below. You have an opportunity to ask these questions
please.
live of Michael right now. So put them, even if you're watching the recording, tag us if you're doing so. Just, put your questions in the comments.
I don't
What?
know if you saw this. Don is in the Salt Lake City airport and literally just recorded an audition.
He
That's
did.
that's remarkable.
Where's this?
It's in the chat.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great. All right. I
yeah.
saw, oh, I see. There's so many things going on. Don is just like a typing maniac there going on.
Oh, this is good. Yeah.
What are the best 30 seconds fast script things I can do for my VO work? All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. We can take that as the first question, and Michael is very adept at doing voiceover these days because he's a rock star. And so I'm not sure I quite understand the question. What are the best 30-second fast script things I can do for my VO work? If you could kind of clarify that for us, Don, we'll get right back to your question.
And I'm going to leave
But
that one to you, David, because I think you're the voiceover guru between the two of
yeah,
us.
but you know what? This is the best. One of the things that attracted me to your course was that it doesn't really matter how you're you're outputting your work, whether it's for
Right.
stage or
Right.
for television and film on camera or for voiceover on microphone, because we all experience the same brain speed bumps when it
Yes.
comes to auditioning.
I'm going to give Don a sort of a very general answer, and then you can give us more specific questions. Don, I feel that uh, for me, there are two categories. There are the things that we try to do to calculate booking a job, and those things are never our friends. Because every time we get in the anxiety of trying to go, what do I do to book it? What shirt? What take on the role? Blah blah. All of that runs counter to what we know about good acting, which doesn't come from those questions. It comes from a different set of questions. What do I want? What am I doing to get it? My character. What does my character want? My character doesn't want a job on a TV show. My character wants something else. And the more I get invested in that, and what's standing in my way, and what am I doing to get it, the old acting questions that your acting teacher asked you uh, are so much more conducive to good auditioning than any of the things that we do to try to crack this uncrackable code of how to book a job. And that's part of what I talk about in my course is letting go of the idea that there is some magic trick to booking, which doesn't really hold up to logic because every casting director is different, every director is different, every writer is different, and every acting opportunity is different. So to suggest, well, if you use a blue background, that's the trick, or do something unusual, or give your character a tick, these are all insane theories. What's not
Yeah,
insane is I am going to invest in the journey that my character has to take today and just do that and not worry about trying to shape the outcome. So that's a very general answer to your question.
yeah. And speaking of the course that you talk about, the course is let me see if I can find it here, over here, and then over here, and then over here, and then
What are
over
you doing?
here. So for what?
What are you doing?
I'm just looking for stuff because there's questions are coming in.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Joe,
so
listen to
ask.
this. We got a very nice compliment. Joe Eckhart
Yeah,
said,
yeah. I want
yeah,
to get to that. Hang on one
you do
second.
it.
Okay, auditionpsych101.com/join.
Oh, yes.
This week,
I should talk about that. Yeah.
Michael is offering his pre-recorded course at about a 50% off discount, a little bit less than that, but nearly 50% off.
Yeah.
It's normally $350. This week until Friday, so today through this coming Friday, it's only $195. And
Mm.
there's an option for Club 101, which is his monthly live meetings with his clients. I was just in one this morning, which I was very happy to be in. That too is it's a 60% discount, 67% discount. It's normally $299 for the year. It's only $99. So go check it out over at auditionpsych101.com/join. The link is in the description on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching us. We've got a bunch of questions that have come in from people who couldn't be here today. I'm sure
Oh,
they'll
great.
watch the replay. But Joe just said, hi, having directed both of you in the past. Yes, Pizza Man, love doing that with Freddie and other plans. I can say I wish more actors would learn from the both of you. You're both are incredibly talented actors that I admire greatly. There are so many talented actors out there that would shine with your courses.
That's
And
so nice.
yeah, when I talk to my peers, my friends, my clients, my coworkers, etc., and I mention your name, Michael,
Mm.
you should see how their face breaks into a smile.
Oh, that's nice.
You know,
I,
it's just so.
I love my tribe. I say it all the time. I love my tribe. I love actors. I, and the other thing that people seem to like is I don't I don't think of myself on a different level. We're all swimming in the same stream together. I'm in the trenches. I'm auditioning. Some people think that I just receive offers, which I do not. So this has been my life study, is the psychology of auditioning. And uh, uh, yeah, I wanted to say something about the online course. One of the reasons for doing it is that I don't get to visit every place, and putting it as an online course made it available to people worldwide. And I have in fact had people take this course from Australia, from France, from Germany, from England, from and even the USA, from Canada. And so it makes it available. But what I think is even better about this particular offer is that you can go back to the course anytime. People used to come see it live again and again and again because they said you talk so much and I miss things. So this way you can watch it again and again, which people have said is very, very helpful.
Yeah,
And it's a 22-part course just on the mental part of the audition, which is, I think, everything from the actor perspective.
yeah. I think what I love about it, one of the many things I love about it, are all the little golden nuggets and little tiny bonuses, almost like Easter eggs
Yes.
in the course. Like there's this one moment where you talk about being distracted before going into the room, which we don't have to worry about that much anymore, but maybe with our
Sometimes.
families at home with self-tapes. Like you talk about how you handle other actors who want to chat you up
Yeah.
before you're going in, and you
Yes.
like kind of have your earbuds in and you're like, yeah, no, I get that, and I promise I'll talk to you later. Maybe that there's a way to adjust to doing that for self tapes as
Oh
well,
yeah.
when your spouse comes in and yeah, no, I know, but let me just get this done and then we'll talk about dinner. Who knows?
Well, not only that, but one of the things that I talk about in the course is transferring from being the techie to being the actor. And I learned this from an actress friend of mine. She will start her tape rolling and then walk out of the room, and that's she's being called to set. She comes back in as the actor. She's now not thinking about tech. She's now just playing the scene. I find too many people are like, okay, I got my lights, and I'm going to press record, and now I'm going to start acting, and they don't give themselves that little buffer period, that little threshold to cross into the world of the scene, and things like those things can be distractions as well. The technical part of what we deal with now, and I think just thinking of it as that little shift has made a big difference for me, of just giving myself time to walk out as the crew and walk in as the actor. So things like that are very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool. I'm just looking at all the questions here, and Don, who's at the Salt Lake City airport and is
yes,
doing auditions,
doing
I think
self
he's
tapes.
clarified a little bit. What are they looking for? And I think he means they,
Oh,
meaning the directors and the producers. is that even a question we should be asking? What are they looking for?
No, and that's why I'm so glad that Don asked that. Anytime we use the word they, we have to put things to the logic test. Every director has different tastes. Some directors like actors who are really in their bodies. Some like actors who mess with the lines and make it their own. Some directors like actors who do it just like they imagined it in their heads. And the same goes for casting directors and writers. There are writers who go, yeah, change that word. That's fine. And some who are like, no, I wrote it that way for a reason. Trying to predict what they want is one of the greatest sources of anxiety because it can't be done. And anytime you ask yourself to do something that can't be done, you're going to be anxious. It's a very simple math equation. So when you say, do they want different things? Of course they do. Of course they do. And I think we have to step out of that effort of trying to figure out what they want and just come in, as I say, as a consultant to go, this is my take on the role, and be willing to be a menu item that they can choose or not choose, rather than trying to manipulate an outcome that can't be manipulated. That's really one of the most crazy making things we do.
Yeah. I think I hear you say this many, many, many
Yes.
times in different ways,
Yes.
as though you're trying to really kind of protect actors from what seem to be obvious questions to ask about auditions.
Yeah.
God, it would be great. I could make such an impact if I could figure out exactly what it would be that would be the key to their lock. What would it be? And it's more like what what I've gotten from you is, what do you see this as? Have
Yeah.
confidence in your take on this.
Well, and again, I really try to grind in the fact that we cannot affect the outcome. If I look back, now I have close to 100 credits on IMDb. If I look back and try to reverse engineer, what was the thing I did to get that part? There's no consistent answer to that. Some of those auditions I thought were terrible, you know, and uh, I in one case I asked the producers, "This is an unusual role for me. Why did you choose me?" And they said, "I don't know. Seemed like it'd be fun." So there is not a trackable method to booking work, and it's a very hard thing for actors to hear and accept, but it is the pathway to freedom. I promise you, the truth will set you free. It's
Yeah,
really true. Yeah,
it's really true.
yeah.
We've got a bunch of questions that were sent in. We got
Good.
more questions coming in the
Let's do it.
comments. If you do have a question, please type it into the comments below. We'll get to them, I promise. Let's see here. Sent in Roger. What are some tips for framing and composition in my self-tape audition to make sure I'm capturing the best angles? And this
Okay.
is such an indicative question of
Yes.
the things that we seem to be worried about
Mm.
when it comes to doing self-tapes.
There are a couple of things that I never worry about. One of them is framing. One of them is pace. These are two things that I hear actors say, well, I figured I should do it fast because fast pace. Uh, Pace should come from circumstances. If my character's anxious, he's likely to speak more quickly. If he's not, he's might speak more slowly. But these are things that actors get very hung up on. This is the way you can check this for yourself. Make yourself a casting director for a moment. Put yourself in the casting director's shoes. You are anxiously looking for the right choice. And you find the right choice, except his framing is wrong. Do you change your mind about that actor? You do not. So, again, I don't know what the best angles are because I'm not a filmmaker. You know, I don't get obsessed with interesting filmmaking when I'm doing a self tape. I get just I make sure I'm heard and seen, that I'm lit. I'm going to say lit intelligently, so there isn't like a light behind me that turns me into a silhouette, or some big reflection in my glasses, or something distracting. Beyond that, I do absolutely nothing because I'm not a filmmaker,
Yeah.
and these are not the things that make people choose you.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And if you watch some really famous auditions, the
Oh,
one where Hugh Laurie auditioned for House, I think it was the second or third audition in the process.
yeah,
He looks awful. he's like, there's like an extreme close up on his forehead or something, but man, is he killing it in terms of what the character is doing to get that job, you know? It's
Yeah.
crazy. All right. Jai or Yai or Jai, you tell me. Hi, Michael. At one point, could you, pre COVID, you were going to move to Vancouver, weren't you? My question is, I've embraced and had some success using the Atlantic Theater Company Inspire's book process, practical handbook for the actor. Does what you teach align with its method? First of all, are you
Uh,
familiar with the Atlantic?
I have heard of it and not read it, so I honestly I can't give you an honest answer except that this is not an acting course. Audition Psych 101 doesn't teach acting, so it would be compatible with any acting method. So I'll say yes. I may still move to Vancouver. It's a very slow process. I'm somewhere in the system at this point. So thank you for asking about that. I love Vancouver, and I hope to be splitting my time between the U.S. and Vancouver soon.
That's great. Jay says his name is pronounced Jay.
Jay.
So there you go. All right. Another, yes, I did the Puppet Master on Heroes. Yes, I did. Don says, how do you envision the character? And I think this is actually a very interesting question because we all have a different way of having that multiple point of view from the inside out and from the
Yes.
outside in. How are we being seen on camera?
Yes, it's interesting because I was speaking recently about the two perspectives. As the actor, you have to be an analyst and a detective, and you have to understand what your character's job is in the story and what's going on. But then you have to switch to the internal point of view. In other words, if I'm playing a terrible person, my character may not feel like a terrible person. If I'm playing somebody who's very shallow and into himself, he might think he's very deep and very sensitive. So I have to switch to the character's perspective. How do you envision yourself in the character? This gets into some complicated acting technique. I know that I happen to be a very empathetic person, so I it's very easy for me to sort of sit in the character's place for a moment and think, what would it be like to be in a doctor's office waiting to hear if you're going to live or die? What would it be like being dumped by someone you love? And I can sort of in which case I've experienced it, so it's not hard to. But I think for me, it's taking the moment to sit and breathe and rather than think about how to nail an audition, think about what that character's experience is. And the magical thing about the camera, it just wants to watch you having an experience. You don't need to show, look, I made all these choices, look how interesting I am. It wants to believe you when it looks at you, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question from Norm, who sent in, I've been keeping an audition log,
Mm.
jotting down details about all my auditions. How do I use this data to help me book? Do you keep an audition log? What do you keep track of?
Okay. Oh, Norm, I don't keep an audition log, but that doesn't mean that there's a magical answer here because I always think you got to do you, as the kids say. You do you. I think I here's how you evaluate whether it has value for you. Does keeping an audition log make you more anxious or more at peace? Does it make you happier or sadder? More frustrated or more secure that you're doing the right thing? I uh, and again, please don't think that my practices are the gospel. You know, I don't keep a track of what casting directors I've seen or what I've booked or any of that stuff because I find that makes me hyper focused on booking ratios as opposed to what I want to be focused on, which is storytelling every single time. One of the reasons I enjoy auditioning now is that I don't consider it pass fail. If I don't book it, that's the normal thing that happens most of the time. We don't book. So I don't think of that as something went wrong. I think of that as something went very right. I did my job and I did not get chosen. So I think this is my personal opinion is that keeping an audition log may not be serving you. I don't know how that you can use all that data to help you book. I don't know. I don't see the value in that practice. I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, you talk a lot about uh, the pass fail notion of
Yeah.
auditions, that we tend to concentrate on not just the storytelling, which is really what we should be keeping our eyes on. What does my character want? How is he, for me, he functioning in the scene? What is he going for? What's stopping him from getting there? All the things that we learn in like the first two classes of acting,
Mm,
objectives and so on. But we tend to think to ourselves, if we don't pass all of the tests, technical, lighting, camera, sound, costumes, props, what does the casting director want? Can I remember back to that casting workshop I went to in 2008 where I asked them what their pet peeves were, and they told me, did I not send them a postcard? All of that stuff that has nothing to do with the story.
right.
How do you quiet those voices? Do you just
Yeah.
focus on the story and tell yourself that? Do you have a postcard you put up? How do you do that?
I'm going to say that this is what my workshop is all about, is separating out and relinquishing some of the stuff that doesn't have value for you. And I think the way to quiet those voices is by taking the time, again, the workshop will help you with this, to take them out and recognize how little value they have. Actors create tests for themselves that don't exist. I don't know if you all realize that. The idea that if you don't have the perfect costume, you'll never work again. We make these tests. What if I blow a word? Well, these are invented tests that don't really exist. In fact, David, I've spoken to a lot of actors who go, "Great news! I booked my first TV job. I hope I don't get fired." So they make another test after they've passed the test. So there was something else in your question I wanted to make sure I addressed, and I have to go back and I'll have to go back and recapture that. I've forgotten what it was. Um, well, I'll get it. I'll find it again. But
Cool.
yes, we make up tests that we don't need to subject ourselves to, and the best way to quiet those is by logically re-examining them to see if they pass the test.
Yeah. And having the courage to let go of some of those things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. It's hard. It's hard because I want to go back. I know what I wanted to go back to. The idea that we evaluate the quality of our auditions based on whether or not we book is insane if you think about it, because most auditions do not result in jobs. That's the least likely outcome, and it's not because we suck or we did something wrong. It's because there are a lot of actors to choose from. It's like somebody is going shopping in the most wonderful gourmet grocery store you could ever imagine, and they pick the fig jam with the lemon rind in it. It doesn't mean that the fig jam without the lemon rind is a failure. It's just there are so many choices. They
Sure.
happen to want. I don't know where I've got this from. The fig jam with the lemon rind. And if you go, well, there must be something wrong with the fig jam that doesn't have lemon rind. Otherwise, they would have chosen it. Do you see how crazy that is?
Yeah, yeah. I
And so
think I
we
think
do
you
this
can
to
bring that up
ourselves.
in your next you can bring that up in your next therapy session. Why did I go for the fig jam with the lemon rind?
Why? And why did I
Yeah.
even think of fig jam? I don't use fig jam. But anyway, it
I
sounded
want to
like,
say hey to Doug Turkel and to Jen Greenfield, two
hi.
people that I had a chance to be with in person last weekend in Orlando
Oh,
at the WovoCon, which is great. And I don't know what Philomena is at, or
I do.
Philaxino is asking. I couldn't find anything in the chat stream with Anthony.
I think
Um,
Felixino is named Anthony.
Oh,
Perhaps.
so
Perhaps.
he's saying, I see. Okay, now I get it. See, this is all the things that the kids can really,
I don't know.
be attuned to, that I, as somebody over the age of 25, find it difficult to, like. Yeah,
Or Felixino believes that one of us is named Anthony. But regardless, the question is clear. How many takes do
yeah,
you normally capture while self-taping?
yeah,
I typically will do 3 that don't have major mistakes in them. And sometimes 1. Sometimes I do 1. I'm like, yeah, that's the scene. Please don't do 30 takes. Don't do that to yourself. There is no perfect take. A self-submitted take needs to have the dialogue mostly right, and it just needs to show the essence of how you do the role, how you talk, what you sound like, what your take on the role is, uh, uh, your essence of who you are. And when we get into these nitpicky little, oh, I lifted my shoulder there, I don't want that. All all it does is drive you crazy. The difference between take 29 and take 4 is only different to you. I promise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Going back to the keeping a log,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go with Helly. I think that's what it is. I keep a log to track the CDs who call me
Okay.
for auditions, for an audition and bookings. I like knowing who they are and how often they offer me auditions. It's somehow comforting. Those two words,
Yes.
somehow comforting,
Good.
very, very interesting to me.
Helly,
What do you think about keeping track of these CDs?
Helly, I think what Helly has offered is a great example of when something works for you. In Helly's case, keeping the log and keeping track is comforting to her. It's not making her go, what can I do? What can I do? Well, the other ones are not calling me in. It's not making her more anxious. It's making her less anxious. And I love that for Helly. Just because it's not for me, this is what I'm saying. You find what works for you. I think that she's finding it encouraging, if I'm reading this correctly, because she's saying, "Oh, look, these casting directors enjoy me, and they've called me again, and will probably call me in the future." And it makes probably makes you feel like I guess I'm doing something right. I hope so. But that's a great example of a good use of a practice that I don't happen to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we want to get your questions in before we wrap up, and we'll spend as much time as we have for questions. So if you do have questions about auditions, and I'm sure if you like look around in the upper left-hand corner of your brain, you're going to find a question. Oh, man, I wish I'd asked Michael that. Just think about it for a moment. I know you had other things you're doing. You're likely checking your email on your phone or whatever, but just think about this. This is a golden opportunity to talk to somebody who, if you've been through his live course, and by the way, the recorded course, which is available this week at an amazing price, if you just go to auditionspsych101.com/join, it is a shooting of the actual live event plus additional content
Mm.
that deals specifically with self-taping. And if you think to yourself, oh, all that stuff that Michael teaches about, going to the casting office and being in the room, that's not applicable to self-tapes. I am here to tell you, as someone who, at this point, they moved it from May to July, will be appearing as top of show guest on a show on Apple TV Plus, and was able to, once again, put into play the things that I learned from Michael in Audition Psych 101. Don't make that mistake, because what you do at home has just as many mental hoops to jump through sometimes
Mm-hmm.
and different ones, which he addresses, as they would if you were in the room.
And here's the thing: I love talking about this stuff. This topic is my jam because I had such a battle with it, such a battle, and such a journey to get to where I am now, where I can turn around and say to other actors, "Hey, psst, there's an easier way to do this." That I just love talking about this. That's why I'm happy to do these what we're doing now, and just whatever this is called, something live. The other thing I want to say is
Something live.
If you go to this website that's posted here, auditionspsych101.com/join, you're not instantly signing up. There's a little clip from the class. There are a little, there's more of an explanation of. Also, I threw in a bunch of bonuses because I like to do that. This is the week to do it. I want you to spend less rather than more because it's just tough times all around. So
Can I give a little behind the scenes about Michael Kostroff, just because I want to brag on you for a second?
Should I turn off my camera so I don't blush? What?
No.
Okay.
This past, I don't know, Saturday night, I was making sure everything was all set up properly for Michael to open up his registration the next morning. And I noticed that on the checkout form, there were some options for what are called BNPL, or buy now, pay later. And I have a personal aversion to those, because I feel like as actors, we're already struggling sometimes in terms of resources, in terms of how we, set up our budgets and how we do things. And I knew Michael was, doing a tech rehearsal, or was somewhere on some stage in Chicago at the time, late on a Saturday night. And I pinged him and I said, "Do you really want these on the checkout form?" And I told him, "I'll do whatever you want. I'll make it whatever you want." But I told him why I didn't use them myself, and he immediately responded with exactly the same care and support and thoughtfulness that I
Mm,
see him show all the time. And you will see throughout the class, throughout the course, all 22 lessons plus the bonuses and everything, you see that he has actors always in mind, always in his heart.
mm,
And he's like, yeah, no, 10 to 20 to 30%, just so that somebody can, pay for this. No, I don't want them to do it if they're struggling. And I don't want them to do it and pay money to these companies that are kind of like payday loan companies.
mm,
This is so indicative of how much he cares about his tribe, about us, our community. And I'm always, I shouldn't be amazed anymore, but I think I'm exposed to people who don't make these decisions in the way that you do. And so I just want to thank you for that, because listen, if you can't afford $195, then the answer is let's wait until you can.
yeah.
If
Yes.
you can't afford $350, but you can't afford $195, I would say now's the time to grab it.
Yeah.
So go to that. Chloe has a question that she
Okay.
sent in. She said, "You clearly have this dialed in. What are your strategies for standing out in a self-tape audition?"
Everyone is asking the questions I hope they'd ask. It's the wrong goal, Chloe, and I know that's hard to swallow because we hear the advice a lot. I'm going to try to explain this in my theory on this. Casting directors are looking at it from the other side, and they go along and they see something and they go, "Oh, that stood out to me." And so then they go back to the actors and they say, "Do something that stands out." But the reason that audition stood out to them is not because the actors set out to stand out. Their take just happened to appeal to them. I did an episode of Vinyl, and I got on set, and the director said, "Wow, no one did what you did in your audition." Well, that's nice, but what I had chosen to do was the thing that made sense to me. That was the most honest, responsible rendering of the script. I did not set out to stand out. So it's yet another thing we shouldn't be thinking about. If we're really doing good acting, we're thinking about, you know, how to convince my wife to stay home to have a date tonight. We're thinking about, how to convince that the fellow scientists that the world's about to explode, or how to explain why somebody's getting a speeding ticket. Whatever our character is doing is what we should be doing. The character is not trying to stand out. So it's really a faulty and very popular mythology about auditioning. It just puts another job on top of the very challenging job of replicating human behavior.
Yep.
I never think in terms of standing out, ever.
Yeah. And we hear that all the time. We hear
Yeah.
that from actors who mean well.
Yes.
They go, "I've heard you really needed to make a bold choice and really stand out." And if they say in the breakdown, she's really sweet as a checkout person and she's trying to be supportive and everything, snap your gum and be an asshole. That's going to make you stand out, and
It
you know what I'm
will.
saying?
It will.
Yeah.
It will.
And
It,
but will it make you stand out in a good way?
no, it will make you stand out as an actor who can't read a breakdown. But you'll
Okay.
stand out.
All
You'll
right.
stand out. You'll stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So in your comments below, we'll get right back to them. Questions, you got Michael live while we're doing this, so take advantage of this. Aaron says, "I identify as non-binary. How can I effectively showcase that in the limited time frame of an audition?"
Aaron, I I wish we could have a longer one-on-one conversation about this. I am not the expert because I am uh, binary. Uh, but my thing I'm most curious about is there an obligation to showcase that within an audition? I would think, and again, I'm coming from a place of not completely understanding, but I would think that the time period of the audition is for you to step into whoever the character is, um, and live their reality and have their experience. That's the job of the actor. Um, if I had to identify my uh, express my gender identity or my sexuality with every audition, that would be an extra job for me, I think, on top of what I do. But I might be misunderstanding your question. I
Well,
think some
let
people who are, I think some people who are not are non-binary and like that feel an obligation to be a spokesperson or to take a stand for that, and I don't know if you're obligated to do that at every turn. Go ahead, David.
yeah. So let's take two fairly clear options. In the breakdown, it says Jonathan or Joette or whatever the character's name is identifies as non-binary. So you
Right.
have that information when you go snooping as a detective into the sides, and you say, okay, and so that is stated in the sides. That's not something that Breakdown Services creates out of thin air. That's something that the casting director would tell them to put into the breakdowns. And for those of you that don't know, those paragraphs in the breakdowns are not written necessarily by the casting director. They are prompted by the casting director, but those are very uniform paragraphs as you break them down.
Mm,
And they're written by people on staff at Breakdown Services for the most part. So they wouldn't put that in there if it wasn't something that the casting director wanted their actors to know. So if it's in there, does that matter? If it isn't in there, is Aaron trying to overlay his own personal orientation on the character unnecessarily? Like you said, is it something he doesn't necessarily have to worry about? It'll be there. It's about the character. So if it's in the
well,
breakdown, if it's not in the breakdown, what do you think?
I think it's also a very valuable thing for your reps to know if you have agents, because the reps will make a point of noting that in the submission when they feel that it is pertinent to the character. I think that's important for them to know. It's just like anything else about you. You know, I speak a tiny bit of Spanish. I want my reps to know that, just in case it's of value. I hope that I've given some halfway decent attempt at answering your question, Aaron, but I would love to talk to you more about it anytime. You know, it's a some of this is new to our world of acting and casting, and we're
Yeah.
finding our way. So,
Yeah,
good
and
question.
that's kind of applicable to almost everything that's going on in a post-pandemic world.
Yes.
If it is post-pandemic, who knows? But the notion that things have changed so many times in just the last 5 years, the pandemic did not create the at-home self-tape.
Mm-mm.
It was happening with EcoCasts and with other services like Cast, KAZT, and other services. And it had started to kind of be around, but the pandemic really accelerated it and made it the norm rather than the exception.
Mm.
I have a question for you.
Oh.
Do you think we'll ever go back to being almost always in the casting office?
Uh, when you phrase it that way, no, I don't. I think we will be doing mostly self tapes from now on. I think it's become the norm and become what's comfortable for casting folks. I do see that there is some return to the room. I've asked the actors here in Chicago seem to do it a fair amount
Yeah.
for theater. They seem to have live auditions a fair amount, and I think theater is more inclined to go back into the room. But I don't know. I don't think that we will go back to mostly in-person auditions ever.
Okay. All right. One more question that was sent in. Ethan, are there any specific technical requirements or formatting, I'm assuming he's asking about video, that casting directors prefer for submissions?
Right. So my question is, which casting directors? So I would say very few things are universal, but sound they can hear, and adequate lighting to show your face. Uh, these are formatting things that they that I think they all prefer.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that other than that, I don't think there's a they, and I wouldn't worry about it. I would just
Yeah.
do work you feel good about and send it in.
Yeah. And I also think that all casting directors do work through some casting platform, either Breakdown Services or Casting Frontier or something. And those platforms have just bazoobles of, is that a word?
Yes,
Just
has to be.
a whole lot of support for you when you're doing your work, it'll say, do it in this format, MP4, and make it 1280 by 720 or whatever they want. Usually that's what they want. And they'll say the same things that Michael's done. Make sure you can be seen on camera, make sure that you can be heard. In general, um, again, this is one of those things that once you decide how you're going to shoot what you're doing in a space that you like, in a space that makes sense for you, like Michael's in a space right now that if you didn't know he wasn't in Los Angeles, I've seen him in his, palatial Kostroff estate in Los Angeles, in his great room. He has a great room that he does his work in. It doesn't look all that much different from where he is now. I mean, it's not like, oh, he's on a set with 3-point lighting normally, but here he's got a shadow across his chest, which if he had to do an audition, I assure you he would take care of. He would move to a
Yeah.
place where the lighting was right and
I would
everything.
I would have a less complicated background because I
Mhm.
want simplicity behind me. It doesn't have to be a screen; it could be a wall. But I would put a less complicated background, and would put more even lighting. But I'm just sitting next to a window, and it's not terrible. You can see my
It's
face.
nice.
You know,
Yeah, and I bet it's warm on the lower part of your
it
chest.
is. I'm going to go back to actually. I'm going to go back on that for one thing, Ethan. I have found that uh, saving your video in a way that does not take forever to upload is helpful. So I usually go for again, whatever the lowest numbers are that I can choose because it loads faster. But
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, one more that was sent in, and then let me go back to the comments here real
Yes,
quick.
yes. Take your time.
Hang on one second. Okay, so Adam says, "Hi, Michael. Thanks for taking the time for this Q&A. I have seen some of your videos and find your teachings, methodology, and more so your vibe so approachable. Thank you again."
Oh, thank you, Adam. I'm looking at your picture. You're awfully young to be writing so well, but well done. Thank you, Adam. That means a lot to me. It really does.
Yeah. Back to
Anthony.
Filishano. I'm going to go with Filishano because that sounds really good. You tell
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, Anthony.
Yeah.
What was your aha moment when it came to auditioning that freed and opened you up fully?
It's a very good question and very interesting. I don't have one particular aha moment of that kind to cite, but here's how it went. I hated auditioning. I was terrible at it. I guess I was working on it without realizing it. Many years later, a friend of mine who's a teacher said, "You should teach this stuff." And I said, "What?" She said, "You idiot. Don't you realize that every time I have an audition, you give me some little piece of gold that makes it all okay?" I said, "I do?" She goes, "Stupid idiot. Teach this." And I'm like, what? I didn't know I had worked through so many of these things. And with terror, I tell you, terror, I wrote out note cards. I thought, well, this is not enough for a class. And I got up in front of these people, and 3 hours later, I mean, the class is now 4 hours. I had the mind-blowing experience of actors coming up and saying, "You just changed my life." And I'm like, I didn't realize that I had a whole body of thoughts and a whole philosophy around auditioning that just came out of the need to fucking survive. The fact that I had such trauma, real trauma, and such challenges. When I say, I mean, listen, like a lot of actors, I got my psychological shit. When I was younger, I couldn't walk into a store and ask for something. I was so shy about presenting myself. So I had no choice but to sort of solve these problems little by little, and I didn't realize that I had. I missed the aha moment. Somebody had to point it out to me.
Well, I'd like to move even further back to to the moment when you realized you no longer were afraid of, or hated, or loathed, or were fearful of auditioning.
I don't know when that happened. I don't
Okay, so
know.
it's kind of maybe a gradual thing
It
that
was
you kind of like
gradual.
got better and better and better.
I, I don't know when that happened. I just, without realizing it, I'd started to sort of enjoy them and then really enjoy them. Now I
Well,
love them.
yeah. Well, the good news is you who are watching this, you can take advantage of all of the things that Michael did that maybe didn't work so well, and
Mm,
that he found things that did and do for so many people who have taken Audition Psych 101. The recorded course, plus the additions of the new self-tape stuff, plus the bonuses of how to tackle the dreaded under 5 auditions, the co-star auditions, the one-line auditions, a collection of Michael's best articles. You know, he used to write for Backstage when it was called Backstage West, or
Yeah.
Backstage. Was it ever called Backstage? Were there two Backstage West and Backstage East? I don't know.
No, because in New York we're very snobby, so that was Backstage.
That was
We
just
didn't identify it as East. It was the proper Backstage. Then there was Backstage West.
understood.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. There are some ebooks and other courses, other things. There's a download in one of the lessons that shows you from a couple of different perspectives, one of which is mine, one of which is a casting director who put out a document on this, but what to do for your camera and for your microphone and for your lighting and how to set all that stuff up so that it's easy to use when you get the audition. And everything that you see has been battle tested. Like, this isn't something where Michael sat down one day and said, what can I make money on from actors? That's not what it's about. What it's about is, what can I do to make actors' lives better? And I find that just so, and one of the things that you get is the opportunity to join his monthly Club 101. Again, we had our meeting this morning. It was great. Everybody brought stuff. Michael brings stuff. He dives deeper into the lessons. And you get that once a month, and it's at an incredible discount as well. So go to auditionpsych101.com/join. I've got one last question that's been sent in, and then we're going to see if there's any last questions in the comments, and we'll wrap things up. Susie says, how can I create a strong connection with the camera when recording my audition? I tend not to want to break a connection with my eyes, which I think she means is just like she wants to do the audition straight down the barrel.
So I'm going to answer this a couple of ways, Susie, because I want to make sure I'm answering the question correctly. You should never look right into the camera unless you are playing a newscaster, because that's this. I'm talking right into the camera. If you're doing a scene, you should be playing just to a character who is off camera a little bit, just a couple of inches makes all the difference. That's how we do it in real television. And you'll see that on television, you never see somebody doing this unless they're playing a newscaster or some other thing. So the goal should not be to make a strong connection with the camera. The goal should be to make a strong connection with your scene partner and let the camera witness it. Which can be particularly challenging if your partner is on Zoom. You have to really make a conscious decision to sort of go through the lens and really connect with them and look with them. Now, what we call the eye fuck, pardon my French, but that's what we call it, that's what it's called.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's eye fucking the camera. You have no idea how much mileage I have gotten out of that phrase.
That's what it's called. I mean, you know, it appeared in many of the scripts for The Wire. That's what they would call when the detective was, you know, staring at the suspect, they'd say he eye fucks him. But the idea that acting scenes are best performed with a constant connection with your scene partner, where you don't break eye contact, is a little goofy, because we don't do that in real life. I find that if I'm talking to somebody in real life, I'm thinking, I'm looking, I'm thinking about what I want to say. Sometimes I look at them, sometimes I don't, and that's normal human behavior. By the way, I'm looking at the camera now because I'm talking directly to you. But if my scene partner is here, I don't have to stare at them to make it a good scene. You should just, again, try to replicate human behavior. And by the way, one of the best ways to learn to do that is by studying people. Watch people, not just actors. Watch people in real life. Watch what they do when they really talk to each other, and you can steal from that. I hope I've answered that question. I think I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we have one last comment here from Anthony.
Yes,
I guess.
Anthony. It is Anthony.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yep. My name is Anthony. All right. Phil
Zeno
is a username I came up with a long time ago that means lover of stranger.
Like, nice.
It's to
Oh,
remind me to try and be more compassionate and caring to others. Well, you're preaching to the choir here, Anthony.
love
That's
that. I
fantastic.
love that.
That's fantastic.
That's beautiful.
All right. So, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching this on replay, again, if you tag Michael, he'll get a notice from the Facebook or from the YouTube or from the LinkedIn, wherever you're watching, and he'll be able to see that you've asked a question. This Friday night at 9 o'clock, as we're recording this on a Monday at 1:30 Pacific, to 2:30 now almost. Is the deadline, and then the price goes back up to $350, which is still a bargain, given. And again, Michael will say this many times in the course: you're not getting the job, but if you do, the difference between what you did in the audition, what you didn't do in the audition, $195 is almost noise compared to the long-term effect of it, and the fact that you will have access to the course forever. So it's not like, oh yeah, you get the course for $195. Like we have people asking all the time, well, don't I have to pay like a subscription fee? Because subscriptions are so
Mm-mm.
common these days.
Mm-mm.
And the answer is no, that's not how Michael rolls.
And
So
I want to tell you something. I always say my class is not going to guarantee you that you're going to work more, and it's not some hack, some trick that's like this is how you book. I don't believe in any of those theories at all. But I can also say that people who have taken my course tend to come back to me and go, "Holy shit, I started booking." It is not anything that I promise or guarantee, but I do think it comes as a result of getting rid of a lot of the extra noise that gets in the way of good acting.
yeah, yeah. So Michael's in Chicago as we speak. I'm in Los Angeles. He's doing a play. I'm doing auditions as soon as I get it.
Yeah.
The reason I'm looking like I'm like, who's the guy that used to be the band leader on the Late Show?
Oh, Paul Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing right now. Anyway, I've got an audition as soon as I'm done. I love feeling the way I feel when I sit down or stand up to do an audition. And I owe that in no small measure to Michael Kostroff and Audition Psych 101. That is not me being super promo-y in this event. That's me telling you the absolute honest to God truth. It has made such a huge difference in my acting life, and I see it making a difference in so many other actors' lives. Yeah, it's really like today. I sponsor, as part of my voiceover stuff, I sponsor a podcast called Voiceover Body Shop. And they're going to do a little segment on the fact that Audition Psych 101 is not only effective for on-camera stuff, but also for voiceover. And the guy that runs that podcast actually took your course.
Oh, great.
And
Cool.
he has said words to the effect of, yeah, I mean, it changed everything about how I audition for voiceover stuff. Because the same gremlins are in your head when you're going up to a casting director and saying, hey, can I help you out? Here's my packet of samples. Is there something here that makes sense for you? It doesn't matter whether it's on camera or for stage or for voiceover. It can help you any way you want it to. So I urge you that if this is something that has been kind of a, you get that audition, you go, oh man, I got an audition. Okay. All right. I gotta lay some rules down for myself. I gotta make some changes in my mindset. What if it was easier? What if you knew exactly what you needed to take care of and could kind of let go of at the same time? Auditionpsych101.com/join. I swear to God, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's going to make a huge difference in your performance career. Michael, break a leg tomorrow when your play opens up.
Thanks. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm David H. Lawrence, 17th. I thank you so much for watching, whether you're watching live or on the replay. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.